2 a.m., the night still young. You live by the gun, you gon' die by the gun. Ain't no handouts for nobody.
Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Jackson Talks Sports. I'm your host Jackson, like we discussed last week, and today we got the stardom situms for this week. We got 3 of each. We got 3 starts, 3 sits in fantasy this week. I've started to get into fantasy. I've played fantasy obviously for a couple of years, but this year I've started to get super into it, looking at target percentages, snap percentages for running backs, all those targets, everything. So I'm gonna do 1 start, 1 sit, 1 start, 1 sit, 1 start. So starting us off, we got our first start of the week. Our first start of the week is gonna be Puka Nacua. This is pretty self-explanatory. If you have this guy, start him. Just plain and simple. Unless you're in a 4-person league and you got Jamar Chase, Diggs, something like that. But if you're in a smaller league, or if you're in a larger league with 12, maybe 8 people, I don't see a world where you don't start this guy. I mean, through the first 2 weeks, he's wide receiver number 2. He had 20.1 points in the first week, 30.1 in the second week, and he's just crazy. I mean, he's a league leader in targets and catches at 35 targets with 25 catches through 2 weeks. And he's number 2 in yards, only behind Justin Jefferson. That's crazy, and he's a rookie. Like I said, he had 15 targets in week 1, 20 in week 2, which amasses for 39% of his team's target share through his first 2 weeks, which also leads the NFL. And what's crazy is this is higher than Cooper Kupp in his last 2 healthy seasons when he was on the Rams, when he finished as the wide receiver 1 when he won the Triple Crown, and when he was wide receiver 1 through 2 weeks before he got injured last year, which is crazy. But again, they're playing the Bengals secondary. Joe Burrow still, we're not sure if he's going to be in or out. If he's in, they're going to get the ball a lot more. Start him. If he's out, you still should start him because him and Kyron together are going to be crazy. I think this is just a must-start guy come week 3. With how good he's been, I mean, he's just been amazing. Now, our first sit-em guy. Sit Tyler Algier. Now, I know he had that good first week, but second week was a huge, massive drop-off for this guy. I mean, he went from having, I believe it was 16 carries to having 14, which I mean, still not a huge drop-off. But he went from having 5 yards a carry to 3 yards a carry. I mean, he had 24 points in week 1, which is amazing, obviously. But I believe it was only 6, might have been 9, something like that in week 2. And that just comes with Bijan Robinson being in that backfield as well. The rookie phenom, who everyone's been raving about because of that overhead camera video that they shot of him with his cutbacks and everything, looks fantastic. And you can see that they're kind of realizing that they're trying to get him into this offense now, because he had 72% of the snap share compared to Algier's 44 last week. Which, I mean, there were some plays they were in together, but it's just I don't know. And I mean, he had 19 carries compared to Algier's 16, so it's and the other thing with Algier, no receiving upside. He's got absolutely no receiving upside, especially with Bijan in this offense. I mean, Bijan is the clear-cut receiving back, because he's only had 3 receptions through 2 weeks. Meanwhile, Bijan has just had a crisp 10 receptions on, I believe, 12 targets for more yards. And it's just, don't start Algier this week, no matter what. I mean, if you want to, if you need a flex, if you can't trade for anyone or pick anyone off the waivers, start Algier, but it's not gonna go well. I don't think so, at least. So next for our start, we have another Ram, and it's not Kyren Williams. It is Tutu Atwell. I have him and Puka on one of my leagues, and I'm starting them both this week. I think both of them are start candidates, especially in like a 12-man league or like a 14, 16 even. Start this guy. I mean, he's been great. He's been absolutely fantastic. He's averaging 16.5 points, 17 and we'll round up, say 18 in week 1 and 15 in week 2, which is something that's going under the radar, because it's not like, oh, people are saying don't pick him up because of his targets. I mean, he still had 8 and 9 targets in week 1 and 2, which is only a 19% target share, but this team throws the ball a ton. I mean, this team just airs the ball out. Matthew Stafford's throwing close to 50 times every game, if not more than that. So with Tutu, it's the same thing. I mean, they're playing the Bengals, and if the number 1 corner is on our boy Puka, Tutu's going to get the ball a lot. I think it's going to be another good week for Tutu. And another thing with both of these guys is we haven't even seen them score a touchdown yet. Imagine when Stafford starts throwing some touchdowns to these boys. Their point totals are going to look even better. But if you don't have Puka, or you need someone to start in the flex spot because of an injury or something, Tutu's a great option to just start in a 12, 14, 16 person, even I'd say maybe 10, depending on what your team is looking like, depending on if you got injuries and all that. But like if you have like an 8 or 10, I would refrain from starting him if you already got a good looking team. I'm not saying he's a must start. So for our next sit, this is a double. This is like 2 people just don't even start either of them this week. We got Jerome Ford / Kareem Hunt. Now, here's the thing. Like I said in episode 1, I'm a Browns fan. I want these dudes to succeed. But they're playing Tennessee. Tennessee's defense, especially against the run, is fantastic. And I think, like we saw last week with Joshua Kelly, who got pretty much every snap in that offense, it's tough. It's very tough. 13 carries for 39 yards for him last week. Only averaged 3 a carry. And Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt, both backups. I mean, Kareem Hunt, they're just going to be splitting carries. It's just, you don't know what to do. You really don't know what to do with these guys. I mean, I would say just don't start them, no matter what type of league you're in. Whether it's a 16, 14, if you're in a 32, go ahead and start either of these guys because it's 32. But, like, you got, in a 12-man, I would not start either of these guys. And especially, like, 10, 8, when you get down to that range, just don't even worry about them. Because outside of, like, with Ford, outside of his massive run, he struggles to get yards per carry. That's why he averaged 6.6 last week. But I think that's gonna dwindle and get lower, obviously, when he doesn't have a big run. Hopefully, like I said, they can play good for my mental state as a Browns fan, but it's not looking like they're going to be good starts in fantasy. I mean, Jerome Ford had 24 last week, but that's not against Tennessee's defense. Tennessee's defense is way better. So for our last start today, I feel like it's another obvious one. We got 2 obvious ones and maybe one like less obvious. It's Zach Moss. For Zach Moss, he's the only running back in this Colts offense. I mean, he sees 98% of the snap share. And also, Anthony Richardson is ruled out for this game, so the receiving upside right there goes up for Zach Moss, obviously, because those running quarterbacks, they're not just going to dump it off to a running back. Instead, they're just going to take it with their legs and get those yards for themselves. Now, for Zach Moss last week, he got 18 carries with 88 rushing yards and 4 receptions, which is a great week. He averaged 4, almost 5 yards, 4.89, almost 5 yards a carry. And he's playing a defense that's good against the run, but not amazing, so we can still see him having another great game this week. I think if you need a running back too, maybe a flex spot, I think he's very good to start, especially in like a 12-man where you got a couple flexes or like maybe 2 flexes, 2 running backs, all that. If you got 3 running backs, if you need depth, just plug him in there. I don't think he's a bad start by any means, especially with his carry share, and he's running behind a good offensive line. So, I think there's no harm to starting him this week. Now, our last sit. This one might be obvious. I mean, I still see him in every league I'm in pretty much. He's still in the lineup. I just can't wrap my head around it. It's Marquise Brown. Marquise Brown plays for the Cardinals. He's got Josh Dobbs as his quarterback. I mean, Josh Dobbs as a backup has been throwing the ball pretty well. I mean, nothing crazy, but he's definitely favoring his tight ends. And, I mean, through the first 2 games, Marquise Brown has 9 receptions on 15 targets, but he's only averaging 5.5 yards per reception. That's not that good. I mean, he's not even up to 100 yards yet. Or wait. Yeah, he's under 100 yards. And, I mean, his only upside is if he scores touchdowns, which they're playing the Dallas Cowboys, who have arguably, if not the best defense in the league this year. Even if Trayvon Diggs just went down with an ACL tear, which prayers up to him. Hopefully he can come back better next year, or even just come back and still be that all-pro level guy. But, I mean, if his upside to score touchdowns this week, not likely because they're playing Dallas. I mean, he's averaging 13.05 through the first 2 weeks, but his numbers are inflated from his week 2 performance where he had a touchdown and 17.4 points, because the first week he did not look that good. But yeah, that's our start and sit. If you have any questions, type them in the comments. If you want to watch other videos, I'll put my first video in the description and the playlist thing at the end. And with that being said, these are my sit-ums and startums for this week in fantasy, and I hope this helps a bunch of people with their lineups, and I hope everyone has a good rest of your day. Thank you for watching. Peace.